My name is Margaret Hattori, and I'm one of the faculty in the School of Nursing at the University of Guam. And I'm excited to be here with this panel. And I really thought the earlier panel on culture and social impact really did a great job of setting things up for us. We have similar concerns as well. I'm privileged to be the moderator for this panel, whose members are charged with discussing the health and social service impacts of the buildup. Now, as a nurse and a member of the community, I'm well aware, as are many of you, of all the problems that we currently face. And similar to the social and cultural group, we have concerns about what's going on in healthcare now. Our panelists will give us their perspectives of how the buildup will impact their agencies in the future. And I'd like to introduce our panel. First, we have Mr. J. Peter Roberto, Director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And I'm very happy to have Dr. Nathaniel Burke from the Guam Radiology Consultants. Next is Sarah Thomas Nedadog, Executive Director of Sanctuary Incorporated. Mr. Peter Scrow, President and Chairman of the Guam Hospital Healthcare Development Foundation. And finally, Captain David B. Miller, Commanding Officer, Department of the U.S. Navy, Naval Hospital, Guam. Now, before we get into the questions, our panelists will give us a couple minutes of their perspective on the buildup and health and social services on Guam. So, Mr. Roberto.
Well, thank you, and again, thank you for the invitation to be on this panel during this forum. I believe that that in the interest of time, getting to what is perhaps the most significant progress made to this point since 2007 is just to highlight some brief areas that we've been working on with the buildup. In addition to my role as the Director for Public Health and Social Services, I also chair the Subcommittee on Health and Social Services, which many of these fine folks here in the panel are members of with their organizations. And one of the first areas that when we start looking at this very huge increase in population is really trying to narrow down a set of priorities that we need to be prepared for, that is considered to be quite critical in our capacity development. And the first is workforce development. That is a priority that we need to actually look into in terms of not only the doctors and nurses, but also in behavioral care. And the second priority is, of course, capital improvement, infrastructure, program infrastructure, and what that would entail. The third is funding for the infrastructure and services, and this is where we actually get into healthcare financing, looking into the various financing for healthcare. And lastly, regulation, licensing, and insurance. The four priorities are really actually woven together, and what this would do, it would basically propel forward a strategic plan. And this plan will be driven by a task order, and a task order followed by the governor's priority in terms of capacity development as well as building initiatives. And what this task order is charged in doing is to ensure that these four priorities, which we've identified as a subcommittee, would allow for a roadmap and how we will actually get from here to the next 5 years. And in this task order, it is also going to have a proposed concept, which is new, which is actually looking at a regional health district. The governor has, together with his colleagues in the Micronesian chief executives, that actually looked at how this buildup will actually impact regional health. And so this is going to be an important part in the infrastructure as we look forward. And so we are really at the doorstep in beginning this 5-year plan. And I'll just go ahead and pause from there and pass it on to the next speaker.
Sarah, there's a microphone right there next to you. Whichever one you want.
Thank you, Margaret, and happy day, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and especially I think I was glad I was put in the middle of the guys in the white with the tie. So it was nice being the only female, the only nonprofit, and the only one in human services. So thank you for thinking about us. I'm particularly concerned that in the whole scheme and the whole planning of the military buildup, and even just in the discussion, the topic of human services and behavioral health is, in my perception, very low on the totem pole. It's very low in the priorities, and you hardly hear anyone talk about it. And what I'm speaking of is how is the health and well-being of our people, our social issues, going to be dealt with. I really appreciate the panelists from the social and cultural group before us that spoke about many of the things that are going on, or the things that we expect to have been lost, or the challenges we'll have in our community relative to housing, to transportation, to crime, to employment, and to education. We're already having a tough time. We had a major influx of people coming to our islands from the neighboring islands through the compact some 20 years, and we're still have not been successful in dealing with a lot of the adaptation and adjustment issues. And in fact, we have many other challenges that have not been addressed, from racism and discrimination to housing and displacement, and many of our people who call Guam home being disenfranchised. So our position really at this point relative to human services is we are already experiencing a host of social issues relative to the better welfare of our people, from mental health issues, disabilities, opportunities for our young people, care and housing for our manamku, our elderly. And we have not been successful in doing a good job at that. And how much more when we're talking about an unprecedented move, and as top military officials have already called it, it's at a magnitude that is unprecedented in military history. And so if these systems are not yet in place, and there is no consensus among our political leaders and our federal officials that the well-being and the quality of life for our local people must be secured and must be a priority, I'm definitely afraid. I have been in the field of human services on Guam for 32 years, and there's already been major challenges just trying to be progressive. And now with this bigger challenge and the lack of attention, place, and priority, it can be a pretty frightful vision. Another thing is that the government is not going to be able, there's just no way, and should it ever be the case that the government should be expected to bear the brunt of the planning and implementation of any programming for Guam. And not just for Guam, but Micronesia, because everything that happens to us obviously has an impact on the rest of our neighbors in our region. And we just don't have those systems. We don't have a policy in place to really take a look at a comprehensive social development plan. We don't have a system in place to really take a look at how we work in private-public partnerships, for example, the nonprofit sector as well as the private for-profit sector. Our contractual and vendor payment system is archaic and obsolete on Guam. And if that is not fixed, it will be discouraging, and it will be something that nobody will really want to get involved in. It's already problemsome now. And if we don't learn if we don't find a way to fix that, it's going to be a problem. We're demanding more federal grants to come to Guam, but yet we don't have the writers, the people to write those grants, to administer the grants, to evaluate them,